Meteorologist Matt Makins here. Welcome to Snow Bros. Here's your promise. This is what you are getting out of this video. We'll have the timeline of where the rain, the sleet, the snow, the ice falls, how much ice, how much snowfall, updated totals for you based on today's data, and brand new, let us know what you think of this. We'll do some timelines breaking down when you will see that snow versus rain versus ice and your temperatures down to your point location. It is Friday, the 23rd of January. Big storm on the way. There are 3 things you have to know. We're addressing your comments with this. What time range are those snow forecasts giving you? 3-day, 7-day, etc. What's this about? We're reacting to your comments, A lot of you have said, well, why are you guys showing this when everybody else is showing us 18 feet of snowfall, whatever the case may be. And here's this video to help you. As we go through all of this, you're going to know why we come up with a forecast that we do, that Brian Shields and I do. So what snowfall ratio are they using on their maps? A snowfall, maybe 10 to 1 or 15 to 1. We'll break down what that means for you in just a second. And how many forecasts that you see, do they actually show you the probabilities of the snowfall? Did you know that a lot of the big models dumping lots of snowfall actually have probabilities built into them? So you know if they're confident or not in how much snow they're producing? That's straight ahead in this video. Let's see where the storm is now. We've got snow stretching out over the eastern plains of Colorado throughout Kansas. And here's the rainfall, that moisture moving into Texas and New Mexico. The collision happens in just hours. Watch. Here's the progression of our storm. This animation goes throughout the weekend. You'll see it repeat a couple of times, but it brings the storm system here off to the south and the southwest and brings it in our direction. So watch as that rain and snow move across the country. That's our storm. It's gearing up now. In just a matter of hours, it's slamming Oklahoma and Texas. A few hours more, it begins to arrive in D.C., Boston by Sunday, and it tries to clear out by Monday and Tuesday. Here's a look at the ice. Still looking at Texas, down towards Arkansas, Louisiana, northern sections of Alabama and Mississippi, northern sections of Atlanta. It'll cross over Tennessee, Kentucky. Here we have the Carolinas into Virginia and West Virginia, and potentially some ice reaches New York. Specific timelines coming our way in just a minute on that. And the snow swath, very little has changed in the position of snow in the latest data, but the totals have increased ever so slightly in some cases. We'll break down those cases here in just a moment. Let's walk through the timeline, be more specific here. Rain is going to be the green areas down here, We have the sleet, the ice here, the pinks, and then we obviously have the snowfall in blue. You get the idea. This is 7 o'clock Eastern time for Friday. Storm is ramped up a lot between the video recording and by 7 o'clock tonight for Eastern time. Watch as we go throughout the night. There is that storm. Heavy snowfall, heavy icing, heavy rainfall through Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. Now it starts to move into the east and the southeast. Here we are Saturday afternoon at 7 o'clock Eastern. Nashville, Atlanta, Charlotte. Storm arrives. It's bringing potentially some ice. If not ice, it's going to be rainfall, cold rain. And we have heavy snowfall in parts of the panhandle of Texas, skirting out toward Kansas City, approaching the south side of Chicago, Cleveland, D.C., watching as that snow moves our way. As we get into Sunday morning, Sunday mid-morning, Sunday lunch hour, you can see the progression here. It ramps up, spreads that precip in all forms across the eastern U.S., mid-Atlantic, New England, northeast, and eastern Canada. We'll have totals for everybody here in just a moment. Once we get into early next week, Monday night, Tuesday, we'll keep some lingering snowfall, Great Lakes and the Northeast, but by and large, the rest of the country hit by this storm will be quieter precip-wise by Sunday, late night, Monday and Tuesday mostly, but during that time frame, the cold remains. So it's not going to be a quick recovery as the system scoots on by. We'll start off here with the updated totals around Oklahoma. There will be sections of Oklahoma that hit 12 to 18 inches of total snowfall, and you can see that snow band moves up north, and we'll cover that area in just a moment. For around Dallas, it's possible you see some snowfall, won't amount to very much. What you have to worry about is the ice in Dallas. Latest projection, right around a ½ inch of ice. Anything more than a quarter adds problems, obviously. You get to a half to 1 inch, huge troubles with power lines, trees, structures, your travel, your safety just walking around. The bullseye is actually from Shreveport up to Memphis down toward Jackson. That triangular area made by I-20, I-55, and I-30, that's where most of that ice is going to develop. Not much along I-65 until you get closer to Tennessee and around Atlanta. Here's I-20 from Atlanta stretching out toward Columbia. There's some icing there, but more of that icing concerned north of Columbia along I-64. I-40 will have some issues. I-75 will also have some icing issues. That's icing covering the south and the southeast. As far as snowfall, I just moved that map. We kind of ended it here, and I said, notice it went to the north and east. So there's covering more of these areas like Lexington, Kentucky, Louisville, Owensboro, Bloomington, Cincinnati. Those locations, anywhere from 10 to 15 inches of total snowfall. We look out toward Roanoke, Richmond, Fredericksburg, Winchester, Morgantown. We're closing in on 6 to 12s in that region. Not much snow in that ice area right here along I-40. I-40 to the north is where the snow falls. I-40 to the south is where the ice and the rain fall. Speaking of that ice, there again is I-40, and you can see Charlotte, Winston-Salem, Columbia, Asheville, Knoxville, Fayetteville, Greenville. Everybody has a chance to get some of this ice, upwards of a ½ inch of it, covering every surface. So you got to be very, very careful as we go throughout this weekend. Up to the northeast we go. Here's the timeline, 7 o'clock. So we have northeastern states, New England, mid-Atlantic. Here's for reference Washington, D.C. on the south side of the map. And then we have Augusta, Maine, and then we move into the Maritimes. So here's Halifax, Boston, and the Cape right around in here. So here's our timeline, 7 o'clock on Friday, relatively quiet. Some light snow pockets here and there, light to moderate, but it doesn't really ramp up yet. That's not the main system. Here's Saturday morning, you're sleeping, you're waking up Saturday morning, just pockets of snow across Great Lakes up into Maine. As we work into Saturday afternoon, still quiet. You're thinking, is the storm still on track? Well, by Saturday evening, it's moving in toward D.C. and Baltimore, Philly, New York by Sunday morning. Here we go, Sunday midday, we're watching football. We have heavy snowfall, potentially around Philly and New York. Hartford, Providence, arriving in Boston, Syracuse, Buffalo getting heavier snowfall. And looky here, we'll break this down in a second, but ice moves into the nation's capital. Ice possible on top of the snowfall. Big problem there if that does materialize. This is Sunday afternoon. Sunday evening, it's heavier snowfall now around Massachusetts. We're moving into New Hampshire, Rhode Island, all of those locations seeing heavier snowfall to close out the weekend. And yes, icing has moved toward Philly and New York. The possibility of icing. Notice how the rain here in the center of the storm system stays mostly offshore. We may catch a little bit of rain or icing at the Cape, but it's going to try to head up toward Nova Scotia. Will be that kind of rain-snow line as we get into Monday afternoon. Here's Monday evening at 7 o'clock, and we'll get into Tuesday morning. We're left with just lighter snowfall. By this point, we got to watch out for the Maritimers. Eastern Canada system gets a little bit stronger. Heavier snowfall possible there for Tuesday into Wednesday. As I pointed out in the 3 things you must know when it comes to snow forecasts, the timeline of it for sure, how much does it mix in with rain or snow? So let's talk about that now. Here's one of the things you have to know when it comes to snowfall forecasts and why ours may be different than others. We're trying to factor in that amount of rain, that amount of ice, and snow all together. It's not just a lump sum that a lot of folks just try to give you. So for Washington, D.C., here's our hourly temperatures, okay? They go across there, and there's the time. So 4 o'clock Friday afternoon, we're still sitting in the 40s potentially. But once we get into the dark tonight, the evening, and throughout the weekend, our temperatures stay in the teens and 20s. That's all we can do, teens and 20s all the way through the weekend. Chance for snowfall, it's relatively quiet, but here we start to see the chance increase. That's Saturday at 4 o'clock. Here we are Sunday morning, 1 a.m., Sunday morning, 4 a.m. So it's going to be Saturday night, Sunday morning for the capital to see the snow moving in. Watch what happens, though, as we get into Sunday mid-morning. Notice how our snow chances drops off, but we're bringing in a chance of ice. Where snow peaks in the night, we're bringing in a chance of ice on top of that snowfall accumulation, and even a hint of some rain if we're quite warm enough out along the water there as we get into late Sunday evening into Monday morning. So the timeline, just looking at D.C. alone, okay, you might take all of your water you're going to get, put it over D.C. Well, a lot of folks are just saying it's all going to be snowfall, so their totals are higher. We're factoring in, well, we got to take some of that snow total out because it's going to be perhaps some ice or perhaps cold rain. So you got to shrink that down a little bit. And the snow ratio matters as well, because if temperatures are in the teens and 20s here, when most of that snow is falling, that might be a little slightly different ratio than what some other folks are showing you. So we take this all into account. And I kind of walked you through DC quickly, or I should say explain DC for you. Let's go a little bit more quickly with some other locations. Here's Philly. Temperatures are the same throughout the weekend. We cool off quickly tonight. We stay in the teens and 20s, perhaps flirting with 30 degrees as we get into Sunday. Your snow timeline. Snow begins to pick up. That's Saturday 7 p.m., Sunday morning, Sunday at 10 a.m. So we're looking at pretty much beyond midnight Sunday through Sunday morning for your heavier snow chance. And like DC, you bring in chances for icing or even some cold rainfall toward mid to late Sunday. You got to factor that into the snowfall totals. Let's go farther. New York City. Here's New York. Your best chance of getting some snowfall based on the latest data is between Sunday at 7 in the morning and Sunday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Then it tapers off. You have a lower chance for ice here. You have a lower chance of some rainfall here, but those will still be possible if temperatures do indeed close in on 30 or the low 30s by Sunday afternoon in New York. What about Boston? We'll finish the timelines with Boston, and here we are tonight. We're going to fall below freezing very quickly if you haven't already. And then look, we've got some single-digit lows and teens throughout the event. When the snow arrives, more so after, say, Sunday 4 a.m., 7 a.m., somewhere in there, that's when you're going to see the snow ramping up. It'll be heaviest Sunday midday, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. At that point, temperatures in the upper 20s. That's a little different snow ratio than what happens in DC. All has to be factored in. Your chance of ice, very minimal at this point, doesn't look likely. And your chance of rainfall, if that low gets a little closer to the coast, we're going to increase your chance for rain, but right now it's a very low chance based on the position of the system as it passes offshore, headed toward eastern Canada. In terms of total snowfall, so everything combined, we're factoring in all these snow ratios, the timeline, got to throw in the chance for rain or freezing. All of those things are considered. Another point of this video, I said there are 3 things to watch out for. When you watch a snow forecast, is that person telling you the time? Some might show you a 10-day snowfall total. Well, no wonder you're seeing 3 feet of snow on it if it covers the next 10 days. We're showing you through Tuesday morning at 1 a.m. Every accumulation map that you've seen in this video goes to about midnight or so Monday night. That's when they all stop. Check your sources before you complain about why one thing is different than the other. Watch what we got here. So we've got some pockets of heavier snowfall here in sections of New York, Pennsylvania. Some of those pockets, yes, you may reach 2 feet of snowfall, but they're very isolated cases. You can see the coloration of the map here as we go up toward Boston. We still think a foot is probably a pretty firm number. 10 to 12 inches is a very firm number, but we increase slightly to account for that ratio of less chance for rain, less chance for icing, so we can give that water into snowfall. So we could potentially see, 12, 15 inches in Boston. That's potential. I'll show you the probability of that happening in just a moment. But Augusta, Maine, we have close to 9 inches. Here's Burlington at close to 8. Around DC, Baltimore, Philly, I'll fly that map in. We'll take a closer look here in a moment. Doing so now, we're kind of just shifted that map view down to the south a bit. So we're still looking at Pennsylvania. There's some pockets here, some heavier snowfall that go down into West Virginia. We have Ohio here, so we've got Columbus on the other side. And you can see all the points. You can pick out your closest location, but generally speaking, off to the west here, we've got 6 to 12s. You move into the center of the map, and then now we're close to a foot, if not a foot and a half of snowfall. Again, some pockets, yeah, sure, you may hit 2 feet based on terrain or those kinds of things, but generally speaking, 12 to 18 inches or so. And then you get closer to the coastal areas, so New York, Philly, Baltimore, Alexandria, the DC area. Let's fly that map down in here. Just take a closer look, and you can see how quickly we get kind of in the more of the rain, the icing area, and how that eats away at snow, and then you work into the colder air. And so, yeah, we may see, say, Annapolis, 7 inches. I think most of the DC area is probably in that 6 to 10 inch range, feels most comfortable snowfall-wise, but then we might throw the ice on top of it. Big problem if that happens. It'll be a slippery darn mess there around DC as we get into Monday morning, Monday afternoon, Monday evening, for sure. Here's Philly, Dover, and Atlantic City, all in that same idea. Yeah, 6 to 10 feels the most probable. The data says it's most probable. That's our range. It's all based on where that ice and the rain and the snow line forms throughout the next couple of days. Just scooted that map. We were right down here just a moment ago. Now here's Trenton, here's New York, Stamford, New Haven, Hartford, Springfield, New London, Providence, Newport, New Bedford, the Cape, Boston, and Salem, okay? And you can see where the pockets of snowfall are heaviest. Most are heaviest, say, along I-90, perhaps a little south of I-90, but between I-95 and I-90, that's likely to be the heavier snowfall, and some of that may reach 12, 15s. Yeah, I've seen maps that go 24, 36 inches, but again, what ratio are they using? And a lot of those cases, the ratio would be historically never happened before for, say, Boston to get that kind of snowfall ratio out of the amount of water that's on the way. So we're showing you the time, talking about the ratios here and why we're settling on some of these totals. But again, 12 inches right around there feels most comfortable with Boston, but not shocked at all if we get closer to 1.5 feet of snow in some cases, depending on that track of the storm. If we get a little colder, we'll produce that snowfall. If we stay as it is, we'll be right around 1 foot, maybe slightly more. And if that system does tend to drift a little bit farther north, then we have to reduce that snow ratio and bring you back down below 1 foot around Boston. Lots to track as we do additional videos throughout the weekend. Looking at Eastern Canada, don't want to leave you guys out either. Yarmouth, Halifax, Moncton, we're all about 16 to 30 centimeters. Go out towards Sydney, 18, and then you look at Newfoundland here, and we've got, you know, some snowfall. It's going to be a rain-snow mix, some icing too. So if you get the snowfall, you may close in on, say, 20 or 30 centimeters also, and that'd be more kind of off to the west, I think, for those higher totals. In terms of ice up here, yeah, Halifax, Yarmouth, watch out for a little bit of icing within the system as well. So again, watching that ice, that's why one factor why our snowfall totals may not jive with somebody else that you just watched here on YouTube. That's perfectly fine. We're explaining to you our thinking and why we're walking through the storm so specifically for you. It's a high impact event. Why leave out details for you in a high impact event? We don't do that here at Snow Bros. Now, there was that third point. I finally got to it. Thank you for your patience. I finally got to it. That third point, I said, your third takeaway in this video is going to be the probability of snowfall. Some of the biggest things I've seen out in the world, social media, YouTube, wherever, the biggest snowfall maps, those ones that are huge totals, right? This is the model. It's a blended model product. All kinds of models go into it. And it says, okay, these models are huge, these models are drier. It just tries to blend them all. Here is that model, but it's not showing you snowfall totals, it's showing you its confidence in those totals. So it's saying my confidence as a model in 12 inches, a foot of snowfall, it's super high in parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. I'm very confident they're going to get 12 inches there. That's what the model's saying. And then as you look out toward the Northeast, so Mid-Atlantic, New England, the Northeast, there are pockets where it says, yeah, I'm really confident we're going to get a foot of snowfall here. Let's zoom in. Where is it confident? Well, kind of around Boston, it's confident. Yeah, I think we can get to a foot of snowfall there. And then it's spottier here off into, say, around State College or Scranton. But let's elevate that. Let's take it from 12 inches. Let's go up to 18. So it's the same model that's showing you in other channels 2 feet, 3 feet is total snowfall. It's this kind of product doing it, but the product itself is saying, I'm not sure we're going to get over 18 inches. I'm sure we can get to 12, but over 18 is, ooh, the odds are a little bit lower. So this is now the same product, the same big snowfall producer is saying, how likely are we to get to 18 inches? At least 18. And now I've really dropped, as a model, I've really dropped those totals. Even around Boston, you know, the probability of hitting 18 inches or more, according to the modeling, is about 60% or so. Yeah, that's better than 50-50, but it's not a locked-in guarantee either. This data, it's updated frequently, and we'll provide you those updates as we go throughout the days ahead. Here's what else we're tracking for you. Those timelines. We'll be very specific with the timelines because of this rain, snow, ice cutoff we dissected and I rambled about in this video for you. But when is the worst hitting? That's the biggest thing. If it hits in the coldest temperatures, you have to adjust your snow ratio. If it's hitting in the warmer temperatures, you got to lower your snow ratio, those kinds of things. Any additional storm shifts impacting the Northeast. We talked about the center of the low. Do we have to worry about more icing or less icing? Those kinds of things. It's pretty consistent, honestly, in the data of the last several runs and from what Brian showed you this morning. And then finally, tracking the ice to snow cutoff. We kind of talked about that and how far to the north the ice decides to shift. All of these details. We are watching for you. Brian and I are poring over the data to just give you an accurate sense of what's moving your way. Without the hype, we talk about the data, why we use certain data, and how we use the data to give you those kind of the specific information down to your spots. If I missed a location, you have further questions, put it in the comments. He and I are watching those comments like hawks. We'll answer.